Hello, welcome to our Thursday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you our feature on the show today as we look at Nigeria's agriculture sector with a focus on Lagos State government and initiatives that's helped to drive growth within the space. Now, the Ministry of Agriculture is inviting eligible investors to indicate their interest in collaborating with the Lagos State government in meat and fish production. Now, the Lagos State is the largest market for red meat in Nigeria, and a deliberate program is also projected to also encapsulate the administration's 5-year strategic roadmap, which will fully be implemented and have a major impact on fish production and livestock subsector. The Ministry of Agriculture has also identified some 8 areas of investment opportunities and is calling on all Lagosians and Nigerians at large to invest in the red meat value chain as well as the fish production area, and hoping for possible partnerships with private investors and entrepreneurs. Joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and much more, I have the Commissioner for Agriculture, Lagos State, Ms. Abisola Olusanya. Good to have you on the Breakfast Show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's now quite critical at this point in time that the conversation around agriculture has to be taken much more seriously. Why is it necessary to replicate a working model talking about public-private partnership, and you call for investment at this point in time?
Thank you for that question. Looking at where we find ourselves today, not just as a state, not just as a nation, but globally, with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's imperative now that food security is very taken seriously across board. We've seen what the shutdown of borders could do to our food systems. We've seen what blockages and strikes can also do to our food systems. And we see that at the heart of everything we do as a nation, as a people, food is at the core. What I always say is that the 3 legs of society, or the 3 legs that hold society together, would be food, health, and security. If you have food, you're sure of at least being of good health, considering that you are eating wholesome and nutritious food. And if that is also taken care of, then at least you're sure that to a large degree, people would be safe. But once food is an issue, once people are not able to have food in their stomachs, then you are sure to have issues around security, you are sure to have issues around health. Also, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals, at the heart of the 17 goals is food. When you are talking of zero hunger, no poverty, gender equality, education, and what have you, everything is all about food. Education, I mean, you can't send kids to school if they don't have food in their tummy. You can't talk of gender equality if people are not able to go to farms. Agriculture is that one sector that is able to employ well over 70% of Africa's population. And majority of the farmers that you have in Africa are women. So when you're even talking of gender equality, you're talking of agriculture. So it just goes to show you that food systems is actually very critical. At the heart of everything we do, we must eat. I always say we talk of tea break, we talk of coffee break, we talk of lunch break, we talk of dinner break. We never talk of health break, we don't talk of environmental break, we don't talk of other breaks, but there is always food break. So it goes to show you that at the end of exactly how critical it is, food is at the core. What this also means is that at this point in time as a state, with a population of well over 22 million people, and you have more people coming into the state on a daily basis, our food systems are vulnerable. What that also means is we need the private sector to come in to partner with the Lagos State government under the administration of Mr. Babajide Olusola to be able to drive food security upwards. Currently, as a state, we are at about 15 to 20%. We need to drive this up within the next 3 to 5 years to 50% and then upwards. So that is why
mentioning that figure now draws my mind to the current inflationary pressures we are seeing at this point in time in the country, and now we have the food composite index also rising quite high.
Yes.
Why do we have now this subsector of livestock production, looking at red meat value chain and then artisanal fishing at this point in time? Why are these strategic sectors for the state government?
Okay, so for Lagos State government, the livestock sector and also the fisheries artisanal sector, these are the areas where we feel we have the competitive and comparative advantage.
As a coastal state.
As a coastal state, exactly. So when you talk of livestock, obviously livestock doesn't involve water bodies, but Lagos being the largest market in sub-Saharan Africa for red meat, especially cattle, it's huge. And then when you consider that as a nation, we consume well over 3.8 million heads of cattle annually. And out of that, Lagos alone consumes consumes almost 2 million of that. So almost 50% of the cattle consumed in Nigeria is consumed in Lagos. Over 6,000 heads of cattle are consumed by Lagosians on a daily basis. It goes to show you how big that market is. So the advantage is to be taken by investors to say we need to sanitize this sector. We need to invest in this sector such that we have wholesome meat, we have healthy consumption patterns, and then we can also assure Lagosians that yes, when it comes to red meat, we can also begin to export, because there's a lot of opportunity in that space. And when you talk of fisheries and artisanal fisheries, I mean, we are surrounded by water bodies. Lagos State has over 22% of water bodies in its geographical terrain. So it only goes to show you that we should begin to harness the opportunities in this space and begin to ensure that at least we have good investors who can also make good money in that space.
And as part of developing working models now, it's also time to also centralize Lagos as a hub in terms of our production volume. So what sort of investment volume are you looking now with this partnership? You're calling for partnership with the private sector. To what extent do you expect the volume to be? And you made mention of the area of standardization. The quality, the stock of investors is also critical.
Exactly. So with regards to the size and scope of the investment we're looking for, it obviously starts with matching demand and supply. So when you look at the fisheries sector, for instance, in terms of the value of the fisheries sector in Lagos State is well over 120 billion naira on an annual basis. What this also translates into is that with regards to demand of fish itself, Lagosians demand well over 400,000 metric tons of fish. But as a state, we are just producing roughly about 174,000 metric tons of fish. So it goes to show you that the deficit is even much higher than what we are able to produce. So if there is that opportunity there, then I wonder why are people not taking up that space, invest in it, and make good monies from it. What we are doing as a state now is to say, you know what, these opportunities are there. We would help to open up this space. We would handhold you to the extent that at least with regards to the ease of doing business index in this space, we help you. If it's with registration, if it's with land allocation and what have you, that could help investors to be able to make good investment decisions and also find it easier to be able to do business in Lagos, we would do that. The same thing with the red meat value chain. This is a sector well worth over 328 billion on an annual basis. Lagosians require well over 350,000 metric tons of beef on an annual basis. How much are we producing as a state? Barely nothing. All of the red meat, majority of what we consume, is actually coming from other parts of the country and from outside the country, from places such as Togo and even Cameroon. And that's red meat. So what this also goes to show is that there's that opportunity here. If we are the largest market for beef consumption, it only makes sense for us to start investing in fattening centers and feedlot centers. It only makes sense for us to invest in more abattoirs in this space, so that the slaughtering is done in hygienic conditions or under hygienic conditions. And then you have opportunities also for logistics, cold chain solutions for the red meat value chain. And then you're talking of meat shops as well and what have you. So the opportunities are endless within the agri sector. And I want people to begin to understand that when we talk of agri, it's not just about cultivating the farm, hoe and cutlass. It's much more than that. You're talking of a value chain. And value chain means from imports, from inputs provision, right down to the logistics, to the aggregation, to the warehousing, to the processing, to the marketing, to the distribution, down to the final consumer. So across the entire chain, you have a host of opportunities, you have a host of activities that people can actually tap into, make good money, and then you find sustainability being driven into the system. So that is essentially what we want to do as a Lagos State government, to show people that these are the opportunities there, and we'll handhold you to ensure that you make good money.
I share your optimism in the sense that you've painted quite a beautiful picture, but we cannot be blinded by the sight of the current challenges. You made mention of logistics and then cold chain supply. We still have quite a whole lot of issues to deal with at this point in time. What's new that the government is bringing on board this time around? Because if you ask the average players in the sector, they'll tell you storage is quite an issue, dealing with wastages is quite an issue, cost-cutting measures, it's quite difficult to bring the prices down. So that also affects the level of competitive pricing that we have. And at the end of the day, it comes back to the buyers in the market. Now that we have conversations around regional blocks, the EFC, FTA, and much more, trying to ensure that we have working models, going back once again, What do you think we should be doing now in terms of attending to our power deficits and storage capacity?
So with regards to storage capacity, what I believe is it still comes down to the private sector, and it still comes down to the government making data available for would-be investors to see that there are opportunities in this space that they can take hold of. As a government, what we should be doing is creating the enabling environment. The private sector should actually drive business. The private sector should actually drive the economy. That's the only way you can find sustainability within the system. As it is now, even as a government, we've started with the build of strategic food reserves. We are building 10,500 cubic meters warehouses across the state. We've started with 2. In the last couple of months, we'll be building much more. And we're hoping that the private sector also will see that at least the state is also taking a leap of faith forward to say, you know what, we need to begin to build up on our food reserves. We need to build up on storage and warehousing for them to also be able to invest in. What we can do as a state is also to point to those strategic locations where we believe that these are centers or these are regions within the state where we need to have reserves, where we need to have storage capacity. And that way we can also help with regards to land allocation, we can help with regards to permits, we can help with regards to creating a one-stop shop where any would-be investor should be able to liaise or be able to at least sit with the Lagos state government and be able to get all of the things that they would require around setting up the business forward. So just like a one-stop center where you can get everything done. The Lagos state government is actually working on that, and we hope to be able to begin the implementation of that within this very year itself. With regards to the challenges, you mentioned stuff around logistics and what have you. The truth of the matter is challenges would also always be there, which is why as a business owner, you need to build resilience into your structure. You need to build resilience into your system.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive, but then this is Nigeria, and that is why making the information available, making data available is actually critical to any would-be investor to be able to enable them make the right investment decisions, which is why the onus lies on us again as a government to begin to ensure that we have the right data available for people to make good investment decisions. At the heart of everything we do is information. If you don't have the right information, you cannot make the right investment decisions, which is why it is critical across board, even as a TV station, to also help to churn out the right information for people to make good investment decisions, which is also why we as a state government are making sure that going forward we are digitizing information. We are trying to capture, create dashboards around all that we do, around all that we see in society, and then be able to bring that forward in such a way that anyone can actually analyze it enough to be able to make the decisions that would help for them to be able to make good money and also to be able to run the economy well.
Another challenge we have is also incentivizing agriculture. At the end of the day, we have quite a huge unemployment rate in the country, and that's still skyrocketing as we speak right now. How attractive is this also for the youth to also come into this space as investors as well? And are looking at emergent sectors of the economy as well within the value chain, still the area of value addition. How is the government creating a plan or a roadmap to incorporate the youth who might not necessarily have the investment capacity or the experience, so to speak? Because I see as part of your criteria, you say we have to have the individuals also have participated within the value chain and show they can deliver. But for the newbies, those are just coming fresh.
Okay, so obviously when it comes to investment, you have different cadres, you have different categories of investment or investors that you want to come into the space. When I talk about the red meat value chain or the fisheries aquaculture value chain, I'm seeking for investors right now. We are seeking for those who probably have the experience, who probably have the capital and have the partnerships that can help to scale up food production quickly or processing or what have you, to ensure that at least we up our food security numbers. For the youth who do not have the experience around agriculture, which is why we have the Lagos Agripreneurship Program, LAP. We have these facilities at Araga in Ekpe and Songa in Badagry, which we're actually working to revamp and hoping to recommission by the month of June, such that we are getting the youth involved in agriculture. What we're also trying to do now is to ensure that, you know what, yes, we can try to bring everyone into the agri space, but we always do ourselves a disservice if as a state we say that our food security status number is currently between 15 to 20%, and we want to up this numbers to about 50% within the next 3 to 5 years. It only makes sense for us also to start to begin to focus on those who have actually studied agriculture in school, to be able to enable them practicalize what they have read theoretically. That way we are able to scale up faster. We're able to bring people who have the experience to a certain degree up to speed, such that in terms of production, we increase what it is that we are able to produce. For those who do not even have the academic qualifications, we're still bringing them in. Currently, we are running the program. We've run about 3 or 4 cycles since last year, January, February. And what we've done now is, apart from you being on ground to be trained by the institution, you also go on a 3-month internship program with an already established facility or an already established business in the agri sector, such that you gain more experience, and this time it's more hands-on because you see how money is being made, you see the administrative capacities and capabilities that you would require to set up your own business, and then that way you can also make your decision as to whether this is really what you want to do as a person or not. For those that we see that have the capacity and have shown the potential, then we put them and do an empowerment program for them. We're actually planning an empowerment program for the month of May this year, such that those, especially in the red meat value chain, the poultry value chain, and the fisheries value chain, will be empowering the youth in this regard. So essentially, it's like giving them a starter pack opportunity. And even though, yes, in times past, maybe there have been issues with regards to not empowering enough of them or not even doing so much for them. But this year, we've decided that, no, that has to change. If you are going to be training people, you should also empower them to a certain degree, or at least handhold them to work with existing businesses in the agri space, such that you begin to mop up unemployment in the space.
And definitely it's time to take investment promotion much more seriously,
yes,
irrespective of the COVID-19 pandemic that we have in our hands. We are optimistic that the vaccine rollout would also have quite a bigger ease on the economy, but I also expect that we have greater research done as well. We have to just put our best foot forward when we talk about making agriculture the mainstay. It's been a pleasure speaking with you this morning, Abisola Olusanya, the Commissioner for Agriculture, Lagos State. We hope for the best.
Thank you very much.